Yes, guys. I think so. It's okay now, and let's start our thing. And please do double check whether my voice is hearable. It's okay, clear enough. Everything is okay. Please respond in chat whether my voice is okay, clear enough. Okay, thank you. Right. So, welcome to the let me say for the demo class of AWS Solution Architect. Right. And you might got the what may I say the list of things what we're gonna see for the next 2 days, today and tomorrow. It's gonna be a very basic one because as you guys voice is low. Can you right now? It's okay now. Now. Okay, it's good to go now. Yes. So that's what the case is, right? So you could able to see the day one schedule. So today we're gonna start with the cloud computing, like the introduction and infrastructure. Like we're gonna talk about what cloud computing is all about, because I've took a lot of classes based of defining the cloud computing case, but I won't get the perfect answer, and some of them say only the part of the answer, but we need to know about the exact scenario, exact thing which is running behind. Followed by that, we are going to talk about the infrastructure. Say we're going to talk about the global infrastructure components, like the availability zone, regions, and edge locations, stuff like that. Then we are going to give a basic overview about the management service, which is a very, very important service if you want to get into the cloud, called identity and access management. And followed by that, today we're going to work with fresh and important service which is called the Elastic Compute Cloud, which is the EC2 service. And we're going to give you the brief introduction about EC2, followed by we're going to work with the security groups today, right? And tomorrow we're going to continue with the security groups, and followed by we're going to have some other topics, and the admin team will share you the remaining stuff, all those things, right? So, to brief about me, right? My name is Rahul, and I've been in this part of training AWS courses, more specifically in AWS Cloud Practitioner, AWS Solution Architect, AWS Developer Associate, and AWS Machine Learning Specialty, right, for the past 3 years, and I'm also certified in those certifications. And I'm being part of CDP for the last 8 months, and I took two batches, the cloud practitioner batch and solution architect batch. And formally, right, I work with a lot of POCs and a lot of stuff in AWS and multi-cloud environment too, right, and Azure and AWS combined stuff, right. So let's start. And I think so. People, I would like to take a poll before starting, right? I think so. Right now, how many people are there? How many kids? So, including two, three. I do have connected with two devices. CDP is at three. So, totally, we have 14 members, right? So, I would like to ask a poll, stuff like that, to make sure that, what may I say, uh, what is your view behind the AWS, right? So first of all, I like to know, have you ever learned about or seen what AWS is all about, or more not specifically AWS, what cloud computing is all about, and some of the services? Have you ever worked or have you ever seen the name of some of the services here? So if you are work, if you know the names of the service, you are open to chat on the chat window. Please get to know about the names of the services so that I can able to understand what you guys know about it. Yes, DockerNet. Okay, think so. We do have a service. We don't have a service called DockerNet in AWS, but to run Docker, we do have ECS, EKS, ECR for repository, for stuff like that. But have you ever deployed any Docker files in AWS? using ECR and run anything to ECS or EKS? If you haven't experienced any kind of things, EC2, VPC, okay, okay, VPC, EC2, not much. So, okay, SNS, great, SES, okay, so good stuff, you guys. Now about the basics of the service, I'm coming to know about the basics of the service. But when you're coming into solution architect, right, you need to know about the solution overview, like the solution architect overview of each and every services. Say if I give you an use case, that use case need to have some kind of let's say components of services which is being added together to provide you an fullest architecture, right? So for that thing you are supposed to know lot and lot of services, and you actually right now okay, so I've got some words and back from them, but back from my mentor in such a way that don't learn what is AWS service. So what is the name of the AWS service, okay, please try to learn where the AWS services can be used, when the AWS service can be used, and how the AWS service can be used. Okay, rather than following what is the AWS service, try to follow other three WH questions, right? Say, right, how you can able to use it, when you can able to use it, where you can able to use it, and that's the way you are supposed to learn. But because that's the form of right using services in particular solution, particular use case which is being given to you, right? So this course, like the solution architect associate, will be going in that phase. We'll be seeing lot and lot of use cases after the demo class ends, and we'll be focusing on what may say a lot of hands-on. We'll try to put a lot of hands-on and we'll try to solve a lot of use case through what may say free tier AWS services. And when you do those things, we'll be focusing on that. I haven't shared my screen yet. I'm just giving you a basic overview. So right now I'm gonna share my screen. Hope you guys can see my screen, right? Okay. So let's
Yeah, screen
start.
is visible.
Yeah, fine. Okay, thank you. Yes. So let's start with this stuff, right? So we about like what is cloud computing. I'm gonna give you the introduction, and we're gonna talk about some infrastructure. So I would say, right. So first of all, before knowing about cloud computing, you need to know about the on-premises infrastructure. Okay, so let's talk about you're working in a company, and that company has an on-premises infrastructure. Say they do have a data center. That data center has a lot of data. Okay, to get an info about a Gmail thing. So if you have a Google account, so your information like your first name, last name, your date of birth, and your company what you're working for, your domain name. Say my domain is rahul at gmail.com or rahul something stuff like that at gmail.com. So these are all the informations about myself, right? So we need to have a server which is to be storing all those things inside my database. So where we need to have all those stuff either going to be in relational database or non-relational database. Okay, so everything to be stored inside a data center. Okay, to be more precise, uh, when coming to on-premises infrastructure, they do have lot and lot of what they say data center. It's an on-premises data center. Okay, if you guys know about the story of Google, right? They started with the garage, like storing all those stuff, they're storing all those stuff like their users' information, and their what they say the primary data center in garage, and they moved from garage to a biggest office. And if you just go and have a look at their data center, so it will almost able to see that it's an entire building, right? You could able to see an entire building consists of a data center. So this is the major thing what was happened in the times of on-premises infrastructure. The first stuff is all about, right? So the first stuff is all about the issues. So what is the issues is nothing but whenever you put an on-premises infrastructure, you are supposed to concentrate on the resources. Say, right, inside the on-premises infrastructure, inside the server, what you're composed of inside the on-premises infrastructure, you are supposed to concentrate or you're supposed to put a work on their operating systems, hardware, storage, infrastructure, and these other software needed. So I just talked about only the operating system, but there may be other software drivers needed for your what may say server to scale it up. So as a user, if you build an on-premises infrastructure, you are supposed to make sure that you have to concentrate on all those resources. But this is not going to be the case, right? Because at each and every time we can't able to concentrate on these resources, right? The operating system, the hardware, the storage, right? We can't able to compose of all those RAM and ROM each and every time when we scale up the on-premises infrastructure. And it is a huge and pretty job we need to work on it. And professionally, what comes to the point of view, right? If you want to solve these use cases, right, solve these issues, say if you want to concentrate on these resources, as a company owner, what I'll do something, right? I will appoint a person, right? I'll appoint a system admin or a networks engineer or a non-premises admin to take care of all those resources. Okay, say I'm going to give you a data center which is going to have this hardware, software, and storage devices. You are supposed to take care of all those things. And I'm going to ask him to do these stuff also. If you got any error, if you right, if you want, if any malfunction has been happened, you're supposed to take actions besides of that. Okay, so we are supposed to work on these two things. You have to take care of all those things. You have to monitor the things whether it is goes good or not, you have to monitor the performance, and you're supposed to need to take actions immediately if any malfunctions has been happened. So primarily what happens in such a way that a company wants to appoint a system admin or an on-premises admin should want to appoint a person to do all those jobs, right? So if a simple data center, a simple on-premises data center, then it is not going to be the biggest issue, right? So we can able to appoint a person. That person will do all those stuff and all those jobs. But if it is going to be a biggest in on-premises infrastructure, say a Google data center or a Microsoft data center or an AWS data centers itself, right? So do we can we able to appoint a bunch of persons? That bunch of persons should able to do these things. Literally not. Why? Because right now you could able to see Gmail accounts, like the what do you say, the Gmail accounts has been booming, right? Lot of people are using, right? Each and every people right now, what can you say, even a kid, I could say a 10-year-old kid or a 12-year-old kid in this generation is using a Gmail account. So it's too difficult to maintain all those data and more sophisticated. We can't able to have an entire data center to have this data and stuff like that. So what's going to be the case, right? First of all, let's see what the server composed of, right? So whenever you are creating an on-premises infrastructure, you are supposed to compose a server. Say that server will be composed of a CPU, a RAM, a storage, a database. You guys know about database. The database will be either relational or non-relational or network devices too. Say we need to know the routers to find the nearest route to attain the destination. We need a switch and we need to have a DNS server which converts our IP address to these associated DNS names. So everything, every stuff the server needs, right? Like so everything is needed, and as when we are going to in terms of on-premises infrastructure, we as a man we have to manually set up all those things. It doesn't come at automatic stage. We have to manually set up all those things. So this thing is where this is a lot of issue. This is one of the issue right now. I would say it's one of the issue. Right, this is one of the issue which is being what we say revolving around the traditional based computing. Say if you want to put it inside the on-premises computing thing. But so when cloud computing has been introduced, how the cloud computing has been resolved this transition, right? How the cloud computing has resolved the transition. So the first thing is all about what cloud computing provides us. So the cloud computing provides us the on-demand delivery of computer resources, right? So the resources can be the power, database storage, application, and other IT resources. Why? Because whenever I teaching AWS instruction to students in colleges and firms, right? So what they actually say is nothing but cloud computing is nothing but the storage part of it. It's a cloud storage. We're gonna store it like how the Google Drive is. but it's not actually the correct answer. It is one of the part of the answer, I would say, right? So storage is one of the IT resources, but it is not only the component of cloud computing. Cloud computing is vast. Cloud computing provides all the IT resources. Say if you want to have a database like what we are talking about it, but if you want a relational database, yes, you can be able to follow RDBMS. If you want a NoSQL database, yes, you can also follow the NoSQL databases. If you want to have a virtual server, like a virtual machine, you can also rent a virtual machine. Right? If you want any kind of software as a service, say if you want to have any machine learning services, yes, you can also rent any machine learning services from the cloud computing platform. So everything can be provided with the help of cloud computing. And a very, very important stuff is that cloud computing is an on-demand delivery. So the word on-demand delivery is nothing but based on the demand of the users, the cloud computing provides, delivers the resources, delivers the service which can able to perform the particular operation. Say if you want to perform a database operation, the cloud computing platform will provide you the particular service for you, and depends upon the demand what you're suggesting. Okay, and so the very second important stuff is all about is the pay as you go pricing. Okay, so say that when you're if you're building up an on-premises infrastructure, if you're building an on-premises infrastructure, you are supposed to pay for the following. Saying you want to pay for the building, pay for the amount of storage what you're going to work on, pay for the CPU, pay for the GPU, pay for the databases, for everything you are supposed to pay. Not only for the components, you are supposed to pay for the building, pay for the what means the place where you're gonna put it into it. So the man cost, the labor cost, everything is gonna get into the conversation. So you could able to see as a company founder, I would like to if I want to put an on-premises infrastructure, I want to scale a high amount of resources and I want to have a high budget amount, then only I can able to go for the what can I say on-premises infrastructure. But with the help of cloud computing, what I can do is nothing but I don't want to pay anything in advance to buy anything else extra. I can go for pay as you go pricing. Okay, what pay as you go pricing is nothing but once you have bought it, you have used it, based on the amount of resources what you have used, for that the particular amount is going to be what we say price amount. Okay, so say if you're building an on-premises infrastructure, you bought almost of 10 gigabytes of storage, but unfortunately only 5 gigabytes of storage are there. So the remaining 5 gigabytes of storage is going to be completely waste. You have already put an investment to the particular the extra 5 gigabytes of storage, so that thing is going to be completely waste. But when you coming to the cloud computing platform, say if I want to rent 10 gigabytes of memory, I can able to rent a 10 gigabytes of memory from the cloud computing platform, but I've used only 5 gigabytes of memory. Then the remaining 5 gigabytes of memory will be given back to the cloud computing platform. So you're not gonna what can I say rent for the extra 5 gigabytes of memory what you have. So that's going to be the scaling up and scaling down feature. So it's automatic scaling up. So we're going to talk about that in a very clear cut view in the EC2 section. Not might be today, right? So we don't have a not going to talk about it. And when you're coming to the cloud computing, right? So you can able to provision exactly the right type and size of the computing resources. As I already said, if you want a 10 gigabyte, you can able to provision exactly the 10 gigabyte. And if you don't use the 10 gigabyte, not what is it not going to be the biggest issue. So only the amount of storage you have used, you're gonna cost for that, right? So and more stuff is that right? You can access many resources, and there are lot of scalable of services like server-based services, serverless services, compute level, storage level, machine learning, software as a service. So we do have a lot of categories of services available in cloud computing platform. Okay, so that's what the base behind cloud computing platform. And I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna what do you say you why Amazon Web Services, right? So you might have chosen Azure. I won't say right. I'm not going to compare over here, but I'm going to say why Amazon Web Services, why AWS more specifically, why AWS is booming today. Right? Lot of companies are using AWS right now. Okay, either they have AWS as a choice, and moreover, AWS is costly comparatively. Yes, I would say AWS is costly comparatively, and more sophisticated AWS and AWS is being used by a lot of startups, right? So to scale up their performance, to scale up their applications, what they are running inside the startups, they have started to use AWS, right? So now the thing is, I would like to go back one more time, right? Why AWS, right? I would like to give you one more review about why AWS is nothing but. I would say AWS is user friendly, right? Comparatively to other cloud providing platforms, AWS is user friendly. You can able to use AWS using one single API calls or two single API calls based on the services what you're going to use, and you will be able to see the AWS management console. That AWS management console will be very user friendly, right? You can able to choose. You can able to easily navigate to the service easily, and it will be very much what they say. And beginner can able to understand what that particular platform is happening, right? So that's the main usage of Amazon Web Services. So for the beginners, I would say Amazon Web Service like our like AWS is one of the easiest platform where they can start their cloud journey. They can start building the applications through AWS. But sophisticated, they need to know about the cost and pricing platforms. They are supposed to be the docs, right? Because docs is very, very important. As you're getting into the solution architect point of view, please learn the docs. Docs are very, very, very important to make sure that yes, this is going to happen and that is going to happen. For this, we need to price this particular amount of money, and that we're going to price the particular amount of money, right? Now, so in your day-to-day activities, right, in your day-to-day life, you are using the cloud services. Say a Gmail, yes, in Gmail, where you can able to archive your mail and you can save it as a draft. So you can able to think where the draft has been put, where the mail has been archived, and where the start mail has been stored. So that's inside a cloud-based storage. And for storing those emails, you haven't set up the infrastructure yet. And Netflix. So Netflix or other OTT platforms, I would say like the Amazon Prime or some other Disney Plus Hotstar, etc., etc. stuff. And guys, I would like to ask a question to you. The question is that hope you guys might have heard the news about it, but this news is not new. This news is old. Can you able to say what might be knowing what or may say and you might be knowing what Netflix is all about and how the Netflix would look like. Okay, because I'm not a much more user of Netflix. I won't use Netflix at all. But I do know what what the components of Netflix would look like. Okay, can you give a suggestion or can you give a guess that what are all the components of the Netflix can be moved from on premises to the AWS cloud, not AWS cloud to the cloud based services? Any idea behind it? What are all the functionalities of Netflix can be moved from the on-premises data part to the cloud-based data, cloud-based what can I say, computing part? I'm waiting for your answer. If it is not, if it is wrong, no issues. Bye bye guys. Even right, even I don't know what all the stuff can be moved inside. Right, I am also getting into the solution architect point of view how Netflix can be fully scalable. Right, from on-premises to the cloud-based providers. I'm just giving you a suggestion. Bandwidth. So what is going to be the bandwidth? I'm not going to get into. What's the bandwidth? What is the bandwidth? Do you think that right now Netflix is not easily accessible from everywhere? Do you think the same? Right? Whether Netflix is not easily being accessible from everywhere? Storage scale quickly. Okay. S3 hub. You guys are saying just the what do you say? A pseudonym. I would say it's a pseudonym. But I'm I'm asking you an answer in such a way that please try to provide in terms of use case. Okay, like I'll give you an example. The example is that say right now in Netflix we do have lot and lot of categories of movies. Okay, might be an action film, might be an gangster film, maybe an what may say 18 plus film, maybe an horror films, stuff like that. So you have categories of this thing, right? So what I can do nothing, but I can able to store all these movies inside my AWS cloud. I'm not going to specify what type of storage it is. Either it's going to be S3, either it's going to be RDS, either it's going to be Dynamo. I'm not going to go over it. But because precisely what I would say is nothing but each and every movie, say each and every movie will have this amount of space, 2.5 gigabytes or 3 gigabytes or for 10 gigabytes. Why? Because Right now, Netflix is providing up to 4K of 4K visualization, 4K clarity to it. So almost 10 gigabytes of storage is less high comparatively, right? So for this 10 gigabytes of storage, so right now Netflix is having almost, let me say, I would, so for example, it might have 100 movies. Each and every movies have 10 gigabytes. So 100 into 10, so it's going to be 1000 gigabytes. So where we can go for the 1000 gigabytes, right? So what we can do, Satish, we can able to migrate from on-premises infrastructure to AWS Cloud by storing all those movies inside my AWS Cloud storage. Like this, what can be the other situations where we can able to migrate the components of Netflix to AWS Cloud? Okay, so see guys, coming from the technology background, I would like to think that you might get to know about this stuff what I'm talking about. So let me continue. So now, if you see the release and you guys might know about it, right? First and foremost things I think, but Netflix is officially using AWS now, because Netflix, their content, their everything is being automated, is being fully migrated to AWS. As I said, where the video files are stored in AWS clouds, videos are delivered on demand, and the customers are asking based on their personalization, where AWS personalizes a service which is being used to work on the personalization. Now, like I would like to say how the cloud computing has been started bloom, I would say. Right? So starting with the sequential computing, you might know, right? One task is given to one computer, and after completing that one single task, the next task will be given to the same computer. So what happens is something where a computer can able to take one task at a time. Right? It can't able to run multiple tasks. So that was one of the important issue. Why? Because right now we are working with multitask environment. If you don't have this multitask features, then that's going to be one of the biggest issue. So sequential computing doesn't have the feature. So after that, we do have a centralized computing. Centralized computing is nothing but the star method. If you have in star method, what you have is nothing but you will have a center hub. Right? I will try to draw to you so that you can able to understand. So you will have a center hub. Okay, this center hub is will be what we say surrounded by a lot and lot of computers. And what happens is nothing but each and every computer will be connected to this center. So what is the meaning behind is nothing but if I want to communicate from computer 1 to computer 2, they can able to communicate directly with the help of center hub. They can able to what can I say send the information, and they can able to retrieve the information directly. So this is the main or we say case behind the centralized computing. But what happens is nothing but we might know about the star methodology, star topology downfall. That is, if the center hub, say this center hub has been demolished due to disaster or stuff like that, now what happens is the communication between all the other computers will be automatically disrupted, right? But because this is the hub which is being connected to all the computers, so now we can able to see there is be not there will not be the communication point of view. So to mitigate this, we do have the other section called as parallel computing. So what parallel computing does is nothing but two or more computers does the parallel jobs, right? Why? Because if a one task is being done by two or more parallel computers, right? So if a task is being very huge, right? What actually do? We'll split the task into chunks. Maybe a top level approach, a top down approach, or a bottom up approach. So more specifically, what we'll use a top down approach. A biggest task will be subdivided into chunks, and each and every chunk will be giving into each and every computer so that they will does their job perfectly. And if any one of the computer is not doing the job, what we can do, other computers can able to share the particular job, so where the reliability comes to the point of it. So from parallel computing, we move to distributed computing, where the services, the components has been distributed across the computing platform in the network what we are gonna working for. Then we do have the cluster computing, we do have grid computing, right? In terms of grid computing, we do have the different systems which are connected the different geographical locations where they connected via the internet. Then we do have an utility computing, and followed by that, what can I say? I would say cloud computing is the successor of the grid computing. Why? Because we could able to see grid computing as the different systems at different geographical locations which are connected via network. But what is the main behind grid computing is nothing but even though they are connected via internet, they doesn't provide any what is a cloud infrastructure. Say they do have only on-premises infrastructure. To move it from the on-premises infrastructure to the cloud infrastructure, we do have the cloud computing. What happens is nothing but right now I'm in India, I'm in Chennai, I can able to access the I can able to access the AWS data center. You might be from Pune, you might be from what we say Gujarat or any part of India, you can also access the AWS data centers too. And to be more precise, let me drop this. This part. Okay, so that's the major stuff behind the let me say cloud computing. Even though you are in the different geographical location, you can able to access the AWS data centers. So we'll talk about AWS data centers, AWS regions in the let me say global infrastructure point of view. Let's talk about the three deployment models of cloud. This is very, very important, guys, but because if you are getting into the AWS stuff, not only AWS stuff and cloud computing stuff, you are supposed to know about the three deployment models of the cloud, right? Because these are the basic interview questions where the if you are gonna appear for the cloud roles, cloud engineer, cloud architect, cloud developer role, they will test you with this basic stuff if you are a fresh. Right? So, what are the three deployment models of the cloud? So, the three deployment models of the cloud are the first thing is private cloud, second thing is public cloud, third thing is hybrid cloud. So, you might know about what private cloud is all about, right? Because you might get the name. Um, Give me a minute, guys. Sorry. Yes. So you might know about the name, right? The private cloud, right? So what is private cloud is that? So the cloud will be personalized for you. It's a dedicated cloud storage for you. So where it will be a single sign-on organization. Let's say if your organization doesn't want to share data behind its network, okay, it wants to share the data within its network, within its within their organization, within their people, then they can go for the private cloud. So you'll be having a security by because it is not exposed to the other environments and it will meet your specific requirements. For example, the Rackspace Cloud is designated to the company and they will not expose the content hosted in the cloud to the public. So if you want to know about the Rackspace Cloud, go ahead and search about the Rackspace company. It's also it's a multinational company where cloud provider is one of the cloud providing company too, but it's a completely private cloud company, not a public cloud company. Right? Now let's talk about the public cloud. The public cloud is nothing but now with the help of a public cloud, let's say if you are using a data and that data want to be shared to the public, right? So what you can do the thing that you will put it in the drive or put it in any kind of storage. You will share the button, and that button will be asking you three different types, whether it is restricted, editor, or viewer. So within that options, now you can able to see the data what you are working on is now available to the entire world. That link can be given to anyone else in the particular anyone else in the world, and they can able to use it. So that's the major famous behind the what do you say public cloud. So the resources which is being hosted owned by the cloud can be used or can be owned by the third party cloud service provider and that can be delivered over the internet. Say Google, say Microsoft, or say AWS can able to deliver over the internet. So when you're giving into the public cloud, right, and you're delving into the public cloud, you are supposed to know about the very important stuff called as the six advantages of cloud computing. Right. So we're gonna talk about the six advantages of cloud computing today. So you might know about those things. Just have a note or this meeting is being recorded. So once the meeting ends, you can just have a look at the six advantages of cloud computing because each and every point is very important to make sure to give it to the case what you're working on. The examples of public cloud are AWS, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure. The last deployment model of the cloud is nothing but hybrid cloud, where I've written over there 50% data in the cloud and 50% of data in the on premises. So more sophisticated, what the company does is nothing but the data which should be secure, like which should be under the company's environment, they'll be having that inside the on premises. The other data stuff, like they want to push to the environment, they will push those data and they will migrate the data from the on-premises cloud to the environment. So to make sure that they will be flexible and it is very cost effective, because you are using both on-premises services as well as the cloud-based services, and most of the security you are using a public cloud to make sure to send your data to the environment. So these are the three different what may say deployment models of cloud. Have a node, private cloud, public cloud, and hybrid cloud. So this is what I'm saying. These are the six advantages of your cloud, of the cloud computing. The first thing is all about the trade capital expense, capex. Capital expense has been abbreviated as capex for operational expense, OPEX. Okay, trade capex for OPEX, which is nothing but you can pay on demand. You don't want to own the hardware. It's going to be a pay as you go delivery service, so you don't want to pay. Don't want to own the hardware. Every hardware is owned by the by the cloud providers itself. Second thing is all about the total cost of ownership, right? Why? Because when you comparing the cloud computing with the on-premises infrastructure, the total cost of ownership, say inside the on-premises infrastructure, is huge. Why? Because you are supposed to pay for the hardware, you are supposed to pay for the place, pay for each and every hardware components available, everything. So you do have when you coming back to cloud computing, you don't want to own the hardware. Providers does it. You don't want to own the space. Why? Because cloud providers has the basic hub or basic data center. So you could able to see comparatively the total cost of ownership, the TCO has been reduced, as well as the operation expenses. The expenses needed for the operations point of view has been automatically reduced. And next thing is gonna be benefit from massive economies of scale, right? Why? Because you could able to see when you're getting into the on-premises infrastructure, when you're in on-premises infrastructure, you should have the massive economies of scale. But because as I already said, I'm repeating it one more time, for the infrastructure, for the hardware, for the components, for the software, everything, for the place, for the building, for each and everything, you are supposed to provide an economy for that thing. So when you're coming back to cloud, you don't want to do anything, right? Everything is provided and it is inside the central hub, right? It is inside the central hub. It's inside the central hub, and that central hub will be taking care of each and everything. So you could able to see the prices are reduced as the AWS is more efficient due to the large scale. And the next stuff behind the advantage is nothing but stop guessing the capacity. Why? Because when you're coming back to on-premise, you want to buy a 10 gigabyte of storage or 20 gigabyte of storage. There you're guessing the capacity. But here you don't want to do it. Based on the amount of resources what you use, you're going to pay for it. So don't guess the capacity when it comes to the cloud computing platform. And therefore this increases the speed and the agility, which increases the speed, like say you want to try and network the traffic from one place to another, or if you want to access any kind of application that we posted inside EC2, so there will be a speed increase and agility increase too. And stop spending money running and maintaining the data centers, as I already said, and go global in minutes. Why? Because you can able to leverage the AWS global infrastructure. So that's what we're gonna see next. After the next two slides, we're gonna talk about the AWS global infrastructure, and I'm gonna show you the AWS global infrastructure in AWS platform itself to make sure that what are all the regions, what are all the availability zones, what are all the other stuff behind the AWS global infrastructure, right? So these are the six advantages of cloud computing. Where I'll repeat it one more time: trade capex for OPEX, benefit from massive economies of scale, stop guessing capacity, increase speed and agility, stop spending money running on and maintaining data centers, and go global in minutes by leveraging the AWS global infrastructure. Now let's talk about the types of cloud computing. This is very, very important. Have a note of it. There we talked about the deployment models of AWS Cloud. There are three deployment models of AWS Cloud, say public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. Here we're going to talk about the type of cloud computing services more specifically. How the cloud computing, okay? So how we are going to be seeing those things, like we're going to work with the type of cloud computing services, what we're going to work on it. So let's start with this thing, right? There are actually three different type of cloud computing services. The first service is infrastructure as a service, IaaS. It is being abbreviated as IaaS. So what infrastructure as a service is nothing but the cloud computing service provides you the infrastructure, say in hardware, networking, and operating systems. And it also provides the storage, provides a high level of flexibility and easily paired. if you want to work with highly parallel, highly high availability zones, and go ahead with the auto scaling features of scaling automatically based on the network traffic what we have, then the infrastructure as a service is a choice what you're gonna looking it for. IaaS provides the infrastructure. Second thing is platform. So what platform does is nothing but the platform as a service that has. So if you do you need to have a platform, say like example IDEs, right? The integrated development environments. So you that the platform which is being given to you, you can run your code inside. So as a cloud computing service, do you want a platform to run your application? Then platform as a service is the very important thing. And that platform as a service will provide you the infrastructure what you need. You are supposed to choose it, the infrastructure, and the platform as a service will create the infrastructure based on the configuration, what we're gonna give it for you. Finally, a software as a service. So in the last two cases, we talked about the infrastructure as a service, we talked about the platform as a service, which provides you a platform, which provides you infrastructure. But if you want to have a complete software, say I do want to work with the software and that software should be available in cloud computing, then software as a service is the best example. It's a complete software product. For example, the low code, no code SaaS products are every no code, low code SaaS product is available in the cloud computing providers. It's one of the best example of the software as a service. So these are the three different types of AWS, not only AWS, the cloud computing services, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Okay, so this is the overview behind the infrastructure service, platform as a service, and software as a service. You could able to see in comes to the on-premises, you could able to see the applications, data, runtime, middleware, operating system, virtualization, servers, storage, networking. Everything should be maintained by the on-premises point of view. But when you come back to infrastructure as a service, you don't want to maintain the what we say it's very important stuff. The application, data, runtime, middleware, operating system will be automatically, right? I would say will be like I would say like the virtualization, server, storage, and networking will be automatically scaled by the infrastructure. You don't want to take care about it. You don't want to take care about the virtualizations. You don't want to take care of the servers. You don't want to take care of the storage. You are supposed to provide the applications. You are supposed to provide the data. What type of operating system needed? What type of middleware is needed for this thing? And when you come back to the platform as a service in the next part, you could able to see just the application and data what remaining everything will be provided by the platform as a service. But when you come back to the software as a service, you don't want anything. You will have a product. That product can be used. Right. So this is the stuff. What I say, I'm just letting you know based on this. Now, so now let's talk about the AWS global infrastructure. So first thing you need to know about the AWS regions. Why? Because to be more precise, what is our nearest region, guys? What is the do we have any regions in India? Might know. You guys might know. For the questions which is being asked, I'll answer the last. Alright, so for the questions which is being asked, I'll answer the questions. Answer for the questions the last. Right? Mumbai. Do we have only one? Only Mumbai? Hyderabad. Yes, Hyderabad is also there. But whether Hyderabad is automatically provided, not a very good question, right? Whether Hyderabad is automatically provided. No, right? No, actually, Hyderabad is automatic. It's not automatically provided for all the AWS accounts what we have or not. Chennai. Oh my god. No, 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 no. I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll show you the global infrastructure. I'll show you. I'll show you. Okay. So Hyderabad is not provided automatically. Right now, in this stage, they might also upgrade it. So what you're supposed to do if you want to use the Hyderabad region, right? Yes, that's the AP South one. AP South one is the Mumbai region, right? So if you want to use the Hyderabad region, what you are supposed to do is you have to go for the account. You have to request the Hyderabad region, and you are supposed to use those things, right? So regions are nothing but the data centers, right? What I am talking about that. So it will be a data center where that data center will consist of your information. Okay, where the data center will consist of the information what it is being needed, right? And that data center will consist of will consist of one important thing, namely the availability source. So availability zones are kind of a subset of the data centers, I would say, subset of the data centers, where inside one single regions you might be able to have more than three availability zones. Okay, more than three are our availability zones. Yes, in Mumbai, three availability zones. Yes, so we do have three availability zones. So what is the major cause behind three availability zones? Or something? But I'll draw and show you how these things work. So So let's say I'm gonna have one availability zone, the second availability zone, and the third availability zone inside the our famous win, which is AP South one. Sorry, I don't have a trackpad right now. I can't even draw it directly. Okay. So what happens? These three availability zones. Okay, are connected with each other. Okay, we are supposed to make it to connect with each other. What happens is nothing but what is the main usage behind availability zones is nothing but if I have an EC2 instances in the first availability zone, right? Unfortunately, this availability zone has been demolished or destroyed due to the disaster. So what happens since we what we have to do something, but we have to replicate this EC2 instance to the other two availability zones in such a way that even though this availability zone has been destroyed, the content behind the EC2 instances can be easily tracked from the availability zone 1 and availability zone 2. Right? So the more sophisticated use of these availability zones is nothing but for the disaster recovery point of view. If any data has been lost in one availability zone, they can be easily retrieved from the other two or more than two availability zones from the particular region. So that's the main step behind availability zone. And the next step, what we're gonna talk about that is the data centers. Like more specifically, that regions and data centers comes into the one single point of view and the edge locations and the point of reference. What edge locations is nothing but right now we are in a very good city, right? In Chennai, in Mumbai, in Bangalore, or any other city. We are in a very good city. But say if you're working in an edge location where you don't have sophisticated things in it, right? Only 2 gigabytes or 3 gigabytes. So only that kind of talking data, that kind of things will be available. So for those edge locations, how can we connect from that particular location to the nearest data center? So that's the main usage of AWS edge locations. We're going to talk about that AWS edge locations in two particular servers, not more than not only two or more than, but we're going to talk about that in CloudFront and Global Accelerator. So this is the link, right? I'll go for the link. We could be able to see this is the global infrastructure. One sec. I'll change my screen sharing. Yes. Can you able to see my screen here in the AWS Global Infrastructure screen? Yeah. So this is the global infrastructure. So just for your understanding, I'm just showing you, right? So you could able to see there are 33 launch regions with 105 availability zones. And for edge locations, for the edge caches, you have 600 plus point of reference. So now you could be able to see here, we are here in India, and in Mumbai, which was launched in 2016, we do have three availability zones with two local zones. In Hyderabad, which has been launched in 2022, which is not publicly available, you are supposed to request it. They do have three availability zones. And let's get back to Northern Virginia. In Northern Virginia, which is launched in 2006, which has six availability zones with 14 local zones and eight wavelength zones. Okay, I would like to give you an overview, just get to know about only the availability zone stuff, okay? And remaining stuff, when you're getting into the classes, you'll learn about it. But you could be able to see the red dots over here. In Mexico, we don't have a data center right now. It's coming soon, and You could also see in Germany, we don't have the data center. In Saudi, we don't have the data center. And to the nearest, Thailand, Malaysia, we don't have. And in Auckland also, we don't have. Okay, I to ask you a question. Now, I'm in Malaysia. Okay, say that I'm in Malaysia. You could able to see clearly, right? Yes. I'm in Malaysia right now. One second. I'm in Malaysia right now, but unfortunately, what happens is nothing but I don't have any data center or AWS regions in Malaysia. How can I able to use what may I say AWS in my region? Yes, guys, the question is for you, right? I don't have a data center in Malaysia. Okay, I don't have my AWS region in Malaysia. Now, how can I able to choose the nearest how can I able to choose the available? I have to say the answer. Yes, you can able to nearest the region, which is Singapore. Okay, that's good. Now, let me get back to you. One more question to you. I am in Singapore. Okay, say I'll choose this thing. I am in UAE, right? So right now I want to use a service called as X, right? And just for an example, I do want to use a service called as X, but unfortunately, the service X is not available in UAE. What I'm supposed to do then? You will change your region. Okay, what region you will change? That's the question. You will change the region. That's the correct answer. But yes. So here also you will choose the nearest region. But I want you to ask you a question, guys. Why you are supposed to choose the nearest region? Why can't you use the farther region to go behind it? Latency. Yes. So guys know about much basics. I don't want to may say you are answering correctly. So the latency behind those stuff is a major point of view. Where you can able to reduce the latency, right? You can able to what I say reduce the time of interval between one from the destination, from point of contact to the destination, so you can able to work on that. Yes. So now let's continue. So that's the base behind AWS global infrastructure. Now let's talk about the before getting into EC2, right? Before getting into IAM today. So we're gonna talk about oh why yes. So we're gonna talk about the IAM in the next part. So before going into IAM, I would like to talk about the shared responsibility model. Okay. So what shared responsibility model is nothing but say now we talked about the cloud computing and like AWS takes care of some one kind of responsibility. Why? Because we have seen that in the different types of cloud services. In infrastructure as a service, it takes the virtualization. In platform as a service, it takes the remaining else rather than the application data. So then come back to those things when talking about SRM. Okay, as a user, you also have kind of responsibility. And as a cloud provider, they do also have some responsibility. When you are using any kind of services, say you are using in EC2, say you're using in S3, say you're using in DB or RDS stuff like that, each and every service will have an SRM point of view, right? So, what is the responsibility of the user using that service? What is the responsibility of the cloud provider providing that service? Okay. This is the overview behind the shared responsibility model. As a customer, you are responsible for the security in the cloud. What in the cloud is nothing but the data what you put inside. Okay. The AWS will not give you the security behind the data what you put inside. It depends upon you. Your whatever infrastructure, network, operating system, server side encryption, client side encryption, the customer data, the applications, everything is the responsibility for you. You are supposed to maintain those things. Then you could able to ask, what is the responsibility of the AWS? AWS has a responsibility for security of the cloud. Whatever data put inside AWS will give you an assurance nothing but it will provide you the data. It will secure the data what you put inside. but the security behind the data is more main is dependent upon. So security is where you have to secure data from the on. So inside the cloud, everything will provided by AWS. Say software, compute, storage, database, networking. Like say what are the regions, availability zones, edge locations. AWS can provide it, but the platform, the applications, the encryptions point of view, the server side encryption, the encryptions like the client side and server side, everything is the responsibility for the customer, right? So this is the thing you need to know, guys, before entering into any kind of service. Get to know about the shared responsibility model. What is the responsibility of the user in that particular service? What is the responsibility of the cloud provider in that particular service? Now, let's talk about identity and access management. Just give me a minute and just have some water. Then we can start. Yes, guys, and we can continue. I don't think I can able to start EC2 today, but I'll give you one hunch about EC2. Okay, so it's 11:4. Okay, so let's talk about identity and access management. So, what identity and access management is all about, right? It's a management level service. Okay, so what identity and access management is all about is that. So, it is an identity provider service, right? It provides you the identity of the user who has been introduced into the AWS cloud. Okay, inside the organization. Say if you want to work in an organization called as A, B, inside an organization called as ORG. Now a new employee comes to the organization. So we are supposed to provide an identity to the user by providing him the username and password. Right. So that thing will be given by the identity and access management. And now he's gonna work under a team called as cloud governance. So we are supposed to have amount of resources that should be used by it. So what IAM does is nothing but it will also allocate the resources which is needed for the particular which is for the particular person. Then coming back to the security, only the amount of resources that should be used by the person is to be allocated, not rather than the other resources should be provided. So these are the three things what IAM does. It provides you the identity, it provides you the resource, and it also provides you the security behind it. Okay, whenever you are creating an AWS account, okay, so it's a best practice create an AWS account, which will help you, which will help you a lot. Okay, so when you're creating an AWS account, you'll be as a root user, right? It should be a root account. Okay. And a root account is created by default. You should not share or you should not use those things when you're coming back to AWS, right? Because whenever I'm doing any kind of POCs, I won't use what I say root user. I'll be using my IAM user stuff. So there are two main components in IAM called as IAM users and IAM root. So this is the diagrammatic overview. Now let's have a look. We do have three groups over here: group developers, group auditing, and group operations, where Alice, Bob, and Charles are in group developers. Charles and David are in group audit team. David, Edward are in group operation, and Fred is not being a part of any kind of AI groups. So what we can able to see now, this group developers has kind of let me say resources. Say they want to use EC2, RDBMS, stuff like that. Audit team want to use IAM. Operations want to team use machine learning. Okay, so what happens is nothing but what happens here is that Alice, Bob, and Charles can able to use the resources called as EC2 and DBMS. Rather than they can't able to use the other things. And David and Fred Edward can able to use the machine learning service. And Charles and or David can able to Charles and David can able to use the IAM, but Charles can able to use both IAM as well as the EC2 and DBMS. Why? Because Charles is being a part of both group developers and audit team. And coming back to David, David is being a part of both audit team and operations. So now David can able to use both IAM and machine learning service. Now Fred is not being part of any kind of group. So what happens? We need to assign any kind of separate resources to the Fred. So this is the main overview behind IAM. From this IAM overview, what I can able to suggest is nothing but an IAM user can be part of two or more than two groups. Point number one. Point number two, there is no any subgroups. Say, can you able to see any groups within another groups? No. Right? We can't able to see any groups within another groups. It's just in we can able to see and user is being part of more than two groups. And third thing, it is not a mandatory condition in such a way that an IAM user should be a part of an IAM. Okay, he can also be an, what do you say, he doesn't want to be a part of an IAM group where we can able to associate some other what do you say, resources, resources separately. Now, as I said, we are supposed to assign the resources, but how we are gonna assign the resources? That's the major question, right? How we are gonna assign the resources? The first thing behind is nothing but we are gonna assign the permissions to the user. So what kind of permissions? The permissions will be in the form of JSON. You could able to see the right hand side. It's going to be in the form of JSON, and this JSON policy is going to be called as IAM policy. Okay, the key values which determine the permissions of the user. Okay, well, say now these are the permissions. So if it is a low action is we need to add some kind of action. What is the resource? What is the condition? So these are the features of the JSON policy, and based on this, the particular resource has been allocated to the user. And as an AWS point of view, use this principle called as LPP, the least privilege principle. Don't give permissions than a user needs. Why? Because we have seen this in the last time. If Alice and Bob needs only EC2 and DBMS, you allow only EC2 and DBMS permission. Rather than don't put more than a EC2 and DBMS service, which will lead you to some other cases, right? So that's the thing you need to know. And IAM policies inheritance, you can also inherit the policies. This is what I have said. You could able to see now developers will have the developer has a policy, audit team has a policy, operation has a policy. Now, analyst Bob and Charles can able to use the developers policy and sorry guys, sorry. Right? So Alice, Bob, and Charles is being a part of developers group. So they do have the developers policies. And David and Edward is being a part of operations, so they can able to point the operations policy. But you could able to see both Charles and David is part of two groups. Charles can able to access the developers policy as well as the audit team policy. David can able to access both audit team policy as well as the operation policy. But come back to Fred. Fred is not being part of any kind of IAM groups. So what happens? He'll be assigned with inline policy stuff like that, right? And IAM password policy. Password policy is nothing but whenever you're using an IAM user, you are when you're creating an IAM user, you should have a password policy. It's saying going to be like how you're going to use what can I say, the stuff like the Gmail accounts, Gmail password, like you should have as a minimum password length, require specific character types, includes the uppercase, lowercase, numbers, non-alphanumeric characters. So allow all the IAM users to share. So the same stuff what we are seeing that in all those password managements, the same here also the same thing. And not only password policy, you can also secure an IAM account with the IAM or a root account with the help of another feature called as multi-factor authentication. Do you guys know about multi-factor authentication, guys? Does anyone know about multi-factor authentication? Yeah. Can you just say what multi-factor authentication is? I'm waiting for you. Why? Because from you, the other participants can learn what multi-factor authentication is all about, right? OTP system. Yeah. So more specifically, like I would say not from our mobile only, not from our mobile only. You might seen this things. Have you seen this kind of devices? But because I have seen this device more than you could able to see that in my phone itself. You could able to check there is an Authy app, right? So I do have an Authy app in my thing, so you could able to check this Authy app stuff like that. So I also have an Authy app. That Authy app can able to provide me OTP. So there are features like, so you can able to use an app inside. Yes, like Google MFA, what you are trying to do. So you can able to have an Authy app, or you can also have any kind of MSA device, MFA device. But because a lot of companies, when they're working on the overtime in the period of one second, guys, I'm sorry. So when in the period of COVID time and lockdown times, so a lot of companies have provided the same stuff, right? A lot of companies provided the MFA device to the employees to make sure that you will be given an OTP. And the MFA device was very costly, and most of that, if you lost an MFA device, you are supposed to give a police complaint, and that police complaint should be submitted to the office, stuff like that. So that there was a huge things which was there, right? Now let's continue, right? Sorry, miss. Yes. So how the users can access AWS? I think so. You all also know the answer for this thing. How as a user can able to access the AWS? There are three different ways you can able to access the AWS. A question for you: how can you access the AWS? That's the AWS console. Okay. Through AWS Management Console, yes, it is correct. Then there are other two more ways. AWS CLI, yes, it's command line interface, and AWS SDK, which is software development kit. So you can able to access your AWS through three different types. One is all about AWS Management Console. I'll show you an overview about the AWS Management Console. This is my AWS Management Console. So you can also create your own account. It's you can able to create a free account. Not going to cost you much, right? So this is my AWS account. What I'm using because I do have both two accounts, which works with my company and which works with my online assignment as a root user. So this is my AWS Management Console where you can able to navigate to any kind of service. Right now in Northern Virginia, you can also choose they say Asia Pacific like the AP South One region, AP South One Mumbai region. You can also choose those things what is happening behind. And this is first thing you can able to use. You can go for IAM. You can able to work with creating an IAM user, IAM roles. This is the role IAM user, IAM groups. And what you can do is you can also navigate to any kind of services. You can navigate to EC2. So you can able to navigate, right? It's an UI, so it provides you a graphical user interface, the GUI, so that you can able to navigate any kind of service and you can start working on it. The second way is all about is the AWS CLI, where I'm gonna open my Windows partial first of all. So before using Windows CLI or anything stuff, not on Windows, Linux CLI, any kind of stuff, what you are supposed to do is that, okay, you are supposed to install the AWS CLI. Okay, it will ask you what type of operating system you're working on. It will give you an overview. Okay, so it will ask you to install a version or stuff like that. You can go back. It will ask you what type of whether it is a Linux. But in Linux, you can able to directly download the command. Or if you are working in a Mac OS, you can also work with the command. Also, if you are working in Windows, you can also work with the alternative. You can use the MSIX command, but you can able to download the CLI directly, right? So download it and use it. And when you have downloaded it, can come back to Windows partial or CLI, any stuff like that. So what we can do is that let me so AWS hyphen version. So there are a lot of commands where you can able to work on. So we'll be getting through this command in our courses, right? Okay. So this is the name of the AWS version, right? What you have installed, right? Say that your CLI version is 2.15.11, but the Python 3.11.6 AMD 64 prompt. So now you can also create any kind of EC2 instance. You can do work with any kind of things. You can create an IAM user, create an IAM group, you can list up all those things through the AWS commands. Or else you can also go ahead with the what can I say SDKs, right? The software development kits, where you can able to use that in your what can I say in your programming language. I'm gonna give you an overview in Python. Why? Because I'm gonna use a what can I say things called Portal 3. Portal 3 is the SDK, the package provided by AWS. Okay, the package provided by AWS to make sure that with the help of Photo 3, you can able to navigate to the other where you can navigate to AWS console directly. You could able to see I've used CloudWatch here with the help of Photo 3. You can able to create clients and you can able to start working on it. Okay, so these are the three ways where you can able to use AWS as a user. So you can able to what can I say create your AWS services. And for accessing right through management console, you don't want to do those stuff, right? But if you want to access from AWS through your AWS command and interface or AWS software development kit, you are supposed to have your access keys. Where you can generate access keys, nothing but we'll come back to the generating keys after a while we are working in the hands-on, right? So you're supposed to generate the access keys will have the two important things access key, secret access key. So those things is very important. If you have an access key ID and secret access key, which is a username, password stuff, so you don't want to share them and you want to use that in your computer to access to the particular AWS server, right? So right. So if you were about of AWS CLF, right? So if you want to know about AWS, like the cloud practitioner certification, so you are supposed to know about the IAM roles, where we have to move to the IAM perspective, the security tools like the credential report and access advisor, and the STS point of view too, right? So now let's get back to the shared responsibility model of the IAM, right? So the shared responsibility of the model IAM is this. So AWS, what it does, nothing but it provides you the okay, use the AWS. You can able to use the AWS like the infrastructure. Right. What AWS does is nothing but it provides you the infrastructure to create your IAM users, create your IAM roles and policies. It will provide you the configuration and vulnerability analysis, right? So where you can able to work with the configurability point of view and provides you the complaints validation. Then it comes back to the user. What you are supposed to responsible for is nothing but the users what you create, the groups what you create, the roles what you create, the policies, the managed policies management, the MFA enabling. Why? Because if you lost MFA device, then you are the responsibility. Okay, you are the responsibility and access pattern, IAM tools. So everything stuff you are supposed to say. So this is the shared responsibility model for your IAM point of view. Right. So this is the section recap. So we talked about what is cloud computing, how it is right. We talked about the evolution of cloud computing, like we talked about, and more sophisticated. We talked about the on-premises disadvantages. Then we moved to the six advantages of cloud computing. We talked about the three deployment models in AWS cloud and the three different types of AWS cloud service. Not only cloud AWS, it's a cloud service. The three deployment models, namely public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and the three different types of cloud service, like the software as a service, platform as a service, and what can you say, infrastructure as a service. And we talked about the AWS global infrastructure, say the regions, ability zones, and data centers. Then we talked about the IAM, one of the management level service. Like we talked about IAM users, IAM tools, how the policy structure should lie, how we are going to access our AWS through three important things like CLI, SDK, and the AWS management console. Right. So now the time is 11:24. What I'll do is that I'll try to make sure to have next 10 more minutes to provide you an overview behind the EC2. Then we'll wind up the class today. Then I'll get back to the questions what you have for the today's course. Right? The first thing you need to know about EC2, right? I would say whenever you're learning the cloud computing, please come to know that EC2 is one of the important service in AWS offering. Okay. Why? Because right now, what is the main drawback behind on-premises thing? It has an on-premises server. So to make sure that we need to have a virtual machine or virtual server in our region. So what we have, we can able to provide or rent the EC2 virtual machines, EC2 service, right? So EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud and it is an infrastructure as a service. Why? Because the Elastic Compute Cloud will provide you all the infrastructure needed for you, say the operating system, hardware, the storage, everything will be provided. You are supposed to have the data, you are supposed to provide the application that can be running inside your EC2 instances, right? So what does this mainly consist of is nothing but it mainly consists of first thing is the virtual machines. You are supposed to rent the virtual machines, so that can be termed as EC2 instances. Why? Because whenever I'm teaching you that EC2 instances is nothing but renting our virtual machines. Second thing is all about for virtual machines, we need to have the data. Say the data behind operating systems, the data behind the like the bootstrap data. So everything to be stored inside our EBS volume. So inside the volume. So because when you come back to operating system, every for an operating system topic, the data behind operating system should be stored inside the volume. So we do have EBS volume, which is elastic block store, and we do have next thing the distributing load across machines. Say right now, if you have a server, if only one input connection or input traffic, then that's not going to be the biggest issue. But if more than one input traffic is going to come, so there will be 1 lakh input request or 10 lakhs input request. How it is going to balance the load coming to the EC2 instances? We can able to use ELB, which is elastic load balancing, to work behind it. And finally, so if you want to scale the number of EC2 instances running inside the server, right? So if you want more than one or more than two, which should be automatically scaled up, then you can able to use the auto scaling. You're not going to see entirely today. I'm just going to give you an introduction about EC2, then we're going to get back to the point stuff. Right? So I would say, right, knowing EC2 is the fundamental thing you need to know before entering into other service. Why? Because it's the infrastructure of the service. It provides you it needs, right? I would say it is the basic stuff behind the cloud computing, right? Where go back and learn EC2 properly and come back to any other service what we have. Right? So this is the EC2 sizing and configuration option. So the EC2 sizing and configuration option can be depending upon the operating system. You might have a Linux, you might have a Windows OS, or you might have a Mac OS, right? So what type of operating system should be there in your EC2 instance? How much compute powers or cores needed? How much CPU cores needed? How much random access memory? How much the storage space? Whether it is a network attached or an hardware attached. If it is a network attached, we do have two options. One is EBS volumes and EFS file storage. And second thing is hardware attached. We do have an EC2 instance store. We're going to talk that when we are getting back into the overview, an entire overview behind it. Right? So then we need to know about the public IP address. Why? Because we need to access the EC2 instance, right? So the network card based on the public IP address. We need to have an IPv4 address or an IPv6 address for the particular thing for the particular point of time. Then followed by the firewall groups, security groups. So what security groups is that, right? Security groups are nothing but the firewalls to the EC2 instances. Okay, security groups are the one which will allow the type of traffic and which will deny the type of traffic which should not be allowed inside the EC2 instances. And finally, the bootstrap script. So which will configure the first launch, which is termed as EC2 user data in EC2 instances. And hope you guys learn operating systems. And do you know about what Bootstrap script is all about? what Bootstrap script is all about? Okay, so what Bootstrap script is nothing but you could be able to see bootstrap. The word is nothing but whenever you are starting your system at the first step, say you bought a new system, you want to start a system, you will be starting a system. So to run your keyboard, mouse, and other connected devices, your computer, your monitor, so you might have speaker. So for each and everything, there will be a driver file, okay, which compacts from the ROM to the RAM to run all those driver files. Why? Because only if this driver file has been done we can able to use CPU. We can sorry, we can able to use the keyboard, we can able to use the mouse, we can able to use the things stuff like that. And there will be other drivers too, right? So I'm just giving you an example. Maybe other drivers too, and we should have some software installed for running our system. So Bootstrap script is the script which contains the code to run all those drivers, to run all those softwares needed for the system to start and it will be configured at the first launch. Okay, as same as in the Bootstrap, easy to use the data is nothing but the Bootstrap data where you can able to run all those things. Okay, if you want to start a mission, you want to install any kind of what can you say things like HTTP server or any kind of things you want to do for web applications, then you will be giving that inside the easy to user data. And very important thing, the script is only run once at the instance first start. And what are the easy to user data can able to have? Installing the updates of the software, installing the software newly, download the common files from the internet, and anything you can think of. I'm just giving you an mere example behind the easy to user data. And the easy to user data script runs with the root user partner. Okay, and I'm gonna talk about the easy to let's get back to things because I'll talk about that in the next class about the easy to instances type. Now let's talk about the introduction to security groups. So what security groups is all about? As I said, security groups is the firewall to the easy to instances. Okay, so the firewall is nothing but it will protect what type of incoming traffic should come to the EC2 instances and what type of outgoing traffic should go out to the EC2 instances. So these are the two things we need to know: the incoming traffic, the outgoing traffic. So the what can I say? It controls both the input traffic and output traffic, and you could able to see there are two rules behind it. One is inbound traffic, another one is outbound traffic. You need to know about inbound rules and outbound rules. Okay, and the rules can be referred by the IP or by a security group too. The inbound traffic can be an IP or another security group too, and this security group will contain only allow rules. Okay, it will contain only allow rules. It doesn't contain any denials. Okay, so this is how the security group will look like. You could be able to see at the bottom. All right, I've taken a snapshot of it. So the type is HTTP, the protocol is TCP, the port range is 80. So what are all the what are all the what can I say incoming traffic we are allowing? We are allowing HTTP traffic. We are allowing SSH. We are also allowing the custom TCP traffic. The custom TCP traffic is nothing but if you have any kind of application running in your own, you can able to update it somewhere else. Okay, so the security groups will be acting as a firewall of the EC2 instances, and what they regulate is nothing but they regulate to the ports, the port range. They regulate to the IP ranges, whether it is IPv4 or IPv6. We can able to we can say configure whether it is IPv4 or IPv6. Control of inbound traffic and control of outbound traffic too. Right? And this is how the clear understanding about the security groups. You could able to see right in the left hand side, I do have an EC2 instance. That EC2 instance takes one security group which has an inbound traffic to allow the port 22. And outbound traffic, more general and more common, outbound traffic will be any port, right? Because they won't configure the outbound traffic, outbound traffic will be anywhere, right? So inbound traffic is only from the port 22. Now I do have a computer that has an authorized to port 22. So now what happens? But since the computer has an authorized to port 22, it can able to enter into EC2 instance can and able to access the application. It's being deployed inside the EC2 instance. But I do have another computer which don't have an authorized port 22. What happens here is nothing but if it comes to the security group, what happens is such a way that it will filter the port and it will check whether it has an authorized port 22 or not. Since it doesn't have the authorized port 22, it will not be allowed inside the EC2 instances to access the application. Okay, and these are the things will be going behind. And good to know more in security groups. First thing, you have to connect the EC2 instance from the various OS. Say you need to work with the SSH access. The EC2 instance connect referencing the other security groups. Why? Because here we talked about computer to one security group. Here, there can be two other ways. From security group to another security group can also be a possible thing. And you need to know about some behind concept behind security groups also, right? So that's it for now because I've covered this today's class, right? We talked about EC2 instances. We talked about, right, um, stuff like the cloud computing, what cloud computing is all about. We talked about the introduction, we talked about the infrastructure, we also talked about the identity and access management. And just now we talked about EC2, the Elastic Compute Cloud, and we talked about the introduction and the basic stuff behind the security groups. So that's it for today. And I'll open for the questions, and you can ask the questions and any other queries related for your things, I'll be answering for you. And if I miss any kind of messages at the top, so please try to put that message one more time. I can able to answer that answer for the question. Uh, You can get the course content from the CDP group. Okay, I think so. They'll share you the entire syllabus, what is going to cover inside the AWS Solution Architect certification course. Okay, so they will share. I'll share. I'll already share. They do have already those things, and that will include the entire course content. So it almost have 15 things right now. Okay, let me check. I do have. Yeah. So this is the course content. What we gonna do in solution architect associate is nothing but so we have just seen the basic behind the IAM, right? I'll be talking more about the IAM like roles, security tools, and IAM best practices with the hands-on. Then we'll be moving into the chapter two, which is easy to compute, easy to elastic compute cloud basics, and where we'll be talking about the easy to basics with easy to hands-on. Right, we'll be creating easy to instances through AWS CLI and AWS Management Console. And I will be working with the SSH, how to SSH your EC2 instances through EC2 Instance Connect and through Windows CLI. And then we're going to talk about EC2 Instance Connect and EC2 Instance roles, stuff like that. Next thing we're gonna in chapter three, we'll be talking about EC2 advanced level, where we'll be talking about the storage like the EBS and EBS hands-on and other stuff. And ALB, NLB, ELB will be having hands-on on ALB, NLB, and we don't have the CLB right now. So and we'll be working with the SSL certificates with hands-on and yeah, auto scaling boost. Then we'll be moving to solution architect associate level. We'll be talking about the private, public, and elastic IP with an hands-on, placement groups, easy to hibernate stuff. In chapter 5, we'll be moving to simple storage service. Okay, so here, simple storage service, it's a vast topic. Okay, you'll be learning each and every stuff, and I'll be creating POCs and we'll be having parallel hands-on for this thing. And chapter 6 will be delving into RDS, Aurora, Elastic Cache, and other storage devices, other storage services. And chapter 7 is all about content delivery networks. We'll be talking about Route 53, the CloudFront, and what can I say, the AWS global infrastructure, and chapter 8, as I said, we are supposed to solve a lot of use cases, right, in terms coming to solution architecture. Chapter 8 will be delving into a lot of solution architecture, classic solution architecture. I'll be delving into 5 to 6 simple use cases, and I'll ask you to derive the use case, and then we'll be having a discussion on those use cases. How did you perform the architecture? And chapter 9 composed of decoupling applications like the SQS, SNS, and Docker. We'll be talking about Docker. And chapter 10 will be completing the serverless, like we'll be going with serverless services like the Lambda and DynamoDB, step functions, cognitive API gateway, stuff like that. And we'll be connecting with API gateway with Lambda and stuff like that. And we'll also see some kind of solution architectures in serverless. And chapter level will be databases and analytics where we'll be focusing on RDS, Aurora, QuickSight, OpenSearch, Kinesis, Apache Kafka for real-time data streaming, big data ingestion pipelines. And chapter 12 will be AWS monitoring. We'll be going with CloudWatch, CloudWatch logs, CloudWatch alarms, Event Bridge, and config. And we'll be having the organization stuff in 8 IAM. And coming back to chapter 13, it is AWS security and encryption. Okay, so AWS security and encryption, like we'll be working with KMS, like the key management service, a SIM parameter store, and followed by some important stuff like the DDoS protection. And combination networking in VPC, this is the very important stuff, but I usually cover that as a last class. Okay, so where we'll be talking about VPC and private public IP, VPNs, customer gateway, direct connect, and internet gateway stuff. And chapter 15 will be machine learning, right, and other solution architecture. And chapter 16, I'll be giving you some practice exam questions and other a list of POCs where you can able to work out. So this is the course content for your AWS Solution Architect Associate certification. And I think so. CDP Networks has the course content. You can able to. I think so they'll share you if you ask them. They'll share you the course content. Any hands-on lab and certification available after completing the course. Yes, so we'll be having a certification. CDP Networks will be providing a certification, and parallelly, hands-on labs in such a way that I'll be focusing on hands-on. Okay, but you are supposed to create your account, and more sophisticated, I'll be using only free dash services to create your hands-ons. Okay, as from this side, they will not give you the hands-on lab, but hands-on overview, hands-on videos, and hands-on stuff, what are the things needed, I'll be giving you, right? You can practice from your AWS accounts. Usually this chapters, right? So this chapters duration is gonna be 40 hours. Okay. More sophisticated, it will take up to 3 to 3.5 months to get complete. Okay. So we'll be having only Saturdays and Sundays class, weekly twice, Saturdays and Sundays like this. And if any kind of mistakes like mistakes in such a way that lack of time or stuff like that, we can even have any other sessions in between in big betweens, and we can able to complete those things. And for the last AWS Solution Architect Bash, we almost had I don't know how many sessions we had. Admins, can you please, CDP, Riaz, can you say how many sessions we have covered for the last Solution Architect Batch? 15 or 20? Some 18 somewhere. Yes. So 19 to 20 is the number of sessions we have covered for more approximately it is to 40 hours. 35 to 40 hours. Any other questions? Do you need any kind of clearance from my side? Maybe I'll be giving some practice questions to you. Okay. That will be at the last, right? So there will be a practice questions. But what I preferably suggest is that yes, I'll give you a guidance, right? For the essay certification, I'll give you the guidance. But what majorly I provide is nothing but the hands-on point of view, right? Because you want to know how to or may say okay, scale up the infrastructure for the use case which is being given you. I'll be giving you the practice questions. Okay, some list of practice questions you can able to take it from me, but not huge, right? I can able to give only some important questions you can able to work on. Guidance in case, what kind of guidance you are expecting? What kind of guidance you are expecting? Maybe today my mic is not working good. Okay, tomorrow's class we'll try to have it in us. Might be. Everywhere, every time, technology is not as right. Might have some kind of disturbances. I'll wait for 5 more minutes. But if you have any questions, you can able to guidance means level of Q. Level of questions. Level of questions, yeah, it will be an average level questions, right? Yes, not only A certification, there are more than that, but uh, you are supposed to know those things, okay? But because I'll share you these things, right? For your domain specific, what kind of certifications you might take, right? But that completely depends to you. Why? Because right now solution architect people are moving to both AWS, both AI/ML and other stuff, right? It's completely depends upon you. You are supposed to choose what kind of certification you are going to take, right? That will help you a lot. Anyways, we're done for today. Let's meet up tomorrow, okay, man? Okay, guys. So let's meet tomorrow, right? Maybe specific tomorrow. We'll try to have huge. Okay, I'll answer for this question by tomorrow. Okay. Sorry, guys. Please ask the question. Please ask the same question. Tomorrow. Okay. So sorry for that. So thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. And let's meet tomorrow and try to have those things. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Both of the questions are very important. I think I can able to see those things. I can able to answer by tomorrow, right? Or I think so. They are in the group, right? They are in the group, right? Also, I'm in the group also, right? Okay, guys. So let's meet tomorrow. Bye bye. See you.
Thank you. Bye.